Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Creative Workshop, where we take a deep dive into the creative process and, try to evoke a little bit of the artistic nature into all of you. And my guest today is Gil Ramirez, and I'm Max Randolph.
Hey, everyone.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy
Oh,
day.
I'm happy to be here.
Well, you've been on my radar for so long now, and I'm really honored that we get to have a conversation, my man.
Likewise. Yeah.
Well, okay, but first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself for those of you that are listening that aren't familiar with your work.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a blacksmith of 23 years now, and started off working with jewelry, went into metalsmithing, but I was working more with copper and brass and softer metals. And then eventually transitioned into steel and, different types of alloys and whatnot. I felt that while jewelry was fun, the steel really drew me in. And I've been a machinist pretty much my entire life, literally since 3 years old. My father had me in the machine shop in his garage, just filing things, sorting parts and all that. And eventually I just absorbed, that entire environment. Metal has been around me forever. And so I decided to, maybe take it a different avenue. And steel was still my thing. Back in when you're a kid, you see those movies and you see people making armor and swords. Like, okay, I want to do that. Is that a thing? Is that even possible? Because it's stage production. Even as a kid, that is a film. But someone had to have made that, right? Someone had to have sat down, drawn it up, and fabricated it somehow.
Dude, I'm instantly thinking of the intro for Conan the Barbarian.
Yes!
I feel like
yes, exactly that. Yes. We both know now that quenching it in snow is not the way to go, but it was a
so
cool
ridiculous.
cinematic thing. Yeah, it got ingrained in your mind. And yes, exactly. Yes, Conan definitely was like a big proponent, at least that scene particularly. Yeah.
Wow. Well, dude, terrific. And so your old man, he was a machinist, huh? You had access to all this cool stuff.
I did. Yeah, he had a milling lathe, a mill, a lathe, various other just belt sander, grinders, and all that. And yeah, I made my first dagger at the age of 13, and it's crude. As you can imagine, a very first dagger being made, I used mild steel. I didn't have any fire. I used my grandfather's ball peen hammer and a block of steel about that big for an anvil. And you know that when you hammer cold metal, it tends to just ting, ting really loudly. And my father at the time had another friend who was co-owning a shop together. And they just both like, you can't do that. You got to like go outside or something. It's really, even in a machine shop where it's very loud in general, I was overpowering that. So they said, no, not here anymore. Which, my dad didn't really want to dissuade me. So he said, all right, what I'll do is, you can't do it here. Do it out in the parking lot. And luckily we had a large parking lot, so no one would, complain about it after that. But, he's like, just don't do it now. Wait till you get a proper education and, work into it. Like go just to a school of some kind for that. And I'm like, okay, fine, fair enough. And yeah, so 13, I did my first blade, but it wasn't until much, much later, about the age of 19, 20, then I really started to work with metals in that capacity, whether it was in reprise or even just small, dishing, forming, that kind of thing, all the different kinds of techniques, and then eventually using a live fire forge for steel. Yeah.
I'm so happy that your parental figure kind of took you under the wing and wasn't like just trying to crush those dreams. Like, okay, you're making too much noise. Don't do this ever again. You are forbidden.
I'll say this though, it has changed. Because I used to be a mechanical engineer myself. I did that for the first part of my life. I didn't fully transition into a full-time blacksmith until semi-recently, 5 years or so, when I got this shop here.
Well, and I mean, you had high school to survive through. Like just being a teenager is hard enough, let
Sure,
alone learning the art of blacksmithing.
sure, sure.
Well, and Gil, like you and I, we're like very parallel in this. You know,
Yeah.
very similar ages when it like really kind
When
of took
when it
off.
started, right?
When
Yeah.
it really started, and this is like long before Forged in Fire. This is long
Yeah.
before reality shows that included blacksmithing. So this is really reaching out for the stars.
Yeah, I remember when anvils were $3 a pound.
Yep. People would give them away like, oh, that old doorstop that I keep
Yeah,
kicking my foot
yeah,
into. Yeah.
exactly. I miss those days.
Yes,
I've
yes.
got several anvils now, but I'd like more. And I think I speak for most blacksmiths that you can't ever have enough anvils. You know?
Well, it's nice too because sometimes like you can have them set up to where you have multiple processes going at the same time. You can have the horns pointing at each other, so you don't have to go around. You can just boop boop boop. It m- More anvils definitely help, but when you start getting into the most anvils and you're starting to like lose shop space because of it, then there's a
That's a little
problem.
much. Yeah, yeah, no.
Yeah.
I know people in the Midwest who post their pictures and their shop's full of like 80 plus anvils. I'm like, what are you doing with all those?
Oh, and I'm so funny because that troubles me sometimes because
It
there's so
does.
many beginning smiths out there that would love that.
They're sitting on a fortune. They know they can sell them for $10 a pound, and that's why they do that. And okay, I'm like, great, that's your business model. Fine, whatever. It hurts me. It does hurt me though. Yeah, there are two things that annoy me in the trade, and that's one of them. The other is the anvil firing, where they shoot anvils up into the air by putting basically, black powder, not even gunpowder, black powder.
Blasphemy. Blasphemy, if you will.
Blasphemy, yes.
Sorry,
Oh
it
my
had to be
God,
done.
that needs to be a shirt right there. There you go, merch idea.
Oh no. But I got to ask you, why steel? What is it about steel that like captured your imagination?
That's a really good question. I never really thought of it, but because there's beautiful metals out there. There's gold, silver, brass, copper. You can shine them up or get them as dull as you want. All the lusters in between, patinas. It's very exciting. All those other metals. Steel just has a what really is it? I mean, I worked with steel most of my life in the manufacturing industry, right? So, I mean, there are a lot of parts made out of aluminum and brass and other different, elements in general, materials and whatnot. I think steel, it just has that. It seems like it just perpetuates. It lasts longer. If you're to throw it into the ocean, of the multitude of alloys out there, brass would probably go, and copper would go the quickest. Aluminum doesn't really last too long. I've seen salt water eat away at aluminum, but like wrought iron can last 200 years in the ocean.
It's
Um,
amazing. There's a level of permanence.
yeah,
Like for me, when I was growing up, there was no permanence like anywhere, and I feel like that might have that. I don't know, that almost like anchor. Speaking of iron in the ocean, that anchored me a little bit,
yeah,
at least
exactly.
for
An
my
anchor,
journey.
right? The anchor, literally the literal anchor. I think it's kind of funny that even after you and I die, many generations after, our work is still going to be out there. And unless
Absolutely.
someone goes and like smelts it down or throws it into the ocean, it's still going to be out there. And I don't know if that's the reason necessarily. Back when I was younger, I had the whole like, oh, I got to build my empire, got to have statues of myself, being a little narcissistic and whatnot. Not to say that's gone completely away, but I
Well,
don't really need that anymore.
those are your 20s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. My
Yeah.
early 20s, like, oh, I gotta, it's a very different environment that I guess I was put into. So, but now I'm a little older, I'm much wiser, and go, yeah, I don't need any of that stuff. But the work itself speaks for itself. And yeah, I mean, like the dice I make, if 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 maintained properly, will last.
Forever.
I don't know how many
In
generations. Yeah,
perpetuity.
forever. Yeah, technically forever.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can rub them away if you just
One can only hope. Maybe Mauritius out there just,
yeah,
wearing it down.
worry stone, yeah.
Worrystone, yes. Oh my God. Well, and you bring up a really good point, Gil, about like, I need to forge my legacy, quite literally, right? And And then there's almost this like active service that, like that's, I feel like you learn a lot of lessons through the trials and tribulations and steelwork. And I feel like any medium in general, like I feel like you get humbled by a medium. And I just, yeah, because it's like what I was always about. Like, I love this, Gil. I think we need to become way better and closer friends, partner. Because
agreed. I've been trying to get that going for a while, and at least in my mind.
Well, and like it's like I can't wait to prove myself. I can't wait to forge my empire.
Mm-hmm,
and then you almost get humbled by the medium, and it's just like I'm in service to maybe the beholder. Not the nasty, right. But like I want to serve to inspire. I can't wait to show people what steel can do for the next 4 generations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's less about me, having a legacy that maintains, and more just like, what can I do? I want to do some. My mind is wandering. My mind is doing its own thing. Sometimes I'll get inspired. We recently had an eclipse, and I thought, would it be really cool to get a giant sheet of silver and just represent out the eclipse, because you can really get those white, bright lines going. You can darken the center with M24. You can really make it look amazing. So I'm like, it's just a thought that pops in your head, and you go, I got inspired by nature recently. A leaf I picked up, I just a leaf, and I'm like, could I make this into copper? I think I can.
Why not?
And, yeah.
It's worth a shot.
Yeah.
Well, and this brings me to my next question, partner. Like, what fuels your fire? Like, how do you keep that spark lit? Is it really nature, like you just said?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I sometimes the fire does go down a little bit, maybe not fully out, but it goes down a little bit, and maybe things again, inspirations in general. Nature does do a good amount of that. Every time I go hiking, I'll just look at some, even just bark on a tree, even the texture of a bark. Like, how would I do that? How would I make that? And
Yes.
Obviously, we as humans can't get 99% as close, but it's the fun in trying, right? It's just seeing a flower. I do flowers, in my shop. I do various things. I think it's kind of a very influential piece in my life, just being around nature. But sometimes you'll get a muse. Someone will enter your life and just inspire you to be like, you know what? I want to create. I just want to do something.
I feel like this is crazy, buddy. Like it's uncanny how
similar
we are to each other. This is freaking me out. Like, yes, nature. Well, in texture, negative, positive space.
Textures. I love textures. I am a man of texture. I will, I have rocks in my shop that are semi-flat that have these weird, granular textures that I hammer copper on. I hammer copper on it, and it receives that same texture, and it looks amazing. I made a fossil reprise that the rock outside of it was that same texture, because I just hammered it right on top. And I look at it and I go, I don't know how I did that. I mean, I know that I did. I know that I did it. I know how I did it. But you stare at it and you go, that looks too real. That looks great,
This is amazing, partner. I love this. Okay. Well, so like when you said like a fossil, are you talking almost like the Nautilus?
Yeah, it was like a trilobite. I used the first thing I had was a trilobite. Yeah.
Very cool. Oh, and don't even get us started about the Fibonacci sequences. And
oh gosh, yes, no, I will absolutely go and I love Nautiluses. I have an ammonite fossil, and I've been working with my partner who does glass work, which we'll get into in the whole marrying of different mediums in a little bit. But she does glass work, and I machined out a little pocket on graphite to melt glass into, and we created little glass ammonites, and just for fun. And I want to do more of that. I want to do glass, and obviously I do leather and wood already in my pieces, but I want to incorporate glass into it.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is amazing. Well, yeah, because they're very similar. Like I've done a little bit of glass blowing, and it's fun. It's like messing around with honey. But the mediums, there's so much intuition between the two, our two trades. They responded, pressure and all of that very differently, but there's still quite a bit of similarities, a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing to bring together.
Mm-hmm. It's difficult. It's because you have to worry about the expansion of the glass and the cooling down, and then the metal still staying warm and not allowing the glass to do its full tempering, the cooling down process at its rate. And so it's a whole balancing act. And yeah.
I'm taken aback by this conversation already. I'm already kind of losing my mind a little bit, but trying to recreate nature and like challenging yourself. And I feel like when it comes to creativity and any type of creative venture, there's so much experimentation. There's so much like trial and error, but like scientific method. Like I have a hypothesis. I think I can do it this way, and then test it.
That's so funny. I'm also, I love science a lot, and I tend to drop in the scientific method, very loose scientific method of, well, I have a theory. I want to test it out. How do I go about testing it out? And I've got, various avenues that I could take. Maybe I'll take all three of them. Maybe I'll be successful with the first one, and then, go down the line. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. All right, cool. Then, conclusion, found, or maybe I got close enough that I'm happy with it. Or maybe, I got it right on the money. And yeah, it's all variable.
And I find it so fascinating too, because I feel like when you get it right on the money, sure, you learn something. But I feel like when the whole thing bursts into flames, everything's flying apart, you're fleeing the shop with a fire extinguisher, you learned a lot of things.
Yeah, so for sure.
I feel like there's those failures, right? There's no such thing. But when the things go awry and like maybe your hypothesis didn't work out, you still learned a lot.
I always tell my students, failure is big. Just I'm honestly go and fail, because I'll be there to help you. I want you to fail. What I tend to do with my intro class is that I allow them to start to fail, and I go, okay, let's pause for a moment. Look what's happening right now. You're getting a little a diamond or rhombus shape on your square taper. What's going on here? Well, you're not moving it fully 90 degrees, and I'll tell them what's going on, how to prevent it. That they have a hammer bias and all that. All the different variables in that add up to either a failure or a success. And I allow them to fail just enough to be cool. This is what's going on. Here's how to correct it right at this stage, or here's how to prevent it, or that various things like that. And so, yeah. Oh no, failure is a great learning tool. People get frustrated. I get frustrated. I'm not gonna lie. I'll get frustrated.
Yeah,
but that's part of the process.
There's a bunch of hammer dings in the sides of my shop when I have a real hot temper, but it's only in the shop. It'll never happen with people, like it's just always in there, because we have I don't know, like expectations of ourselves.
Sure.
I feel like everyone has it.
Sure.
Also, when we do create a show together, guess what the name is? Hammer Biased.
What is it?
Hammer Biased.
Hammer Biased. Love it.
Okay.
We're putting it out in the universe. Please let it be a thing.
We already got a name. It's like you create the band name first, and then you get the members.
The band name, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're both drummers.
Just a whole band of bassists. But that was Spinal Tap, wasn't it? Anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. So speaking of your creative process, I'm deadly curious here. Do you have any rituals when you're like, okay, you get a commission for something kind of specific? Do you have any rituals that kind of get you into the headspace?
Yeah, I do. I mean, they vary from project to project for sure. Recently, I'm working on a fireplace crane, and the lady who lives out in Washington State, reached out to me. He's like, hey, I want this. I've got this fireplace and being built by a master mason, and he's doing an amazing job or whatever. And I got in contact with him. And we got all the dimensions out and whatnot. Like I wanted to be nature inspired, but she's very into Lord of the Rings and elfin culture in general. I'm like, okay, that's massive. I watched the films because why not? I mean, for my own pleasurement, just like, hey, I love this. I love Lord of the Rings anyway. Why not? And then I pulled up some books on like Dungeons and Dragons to see kind of the floral motif patterns. I looked up Art Nouveau and Art Deco because who knows, that could potentially there you go. Yeah, Art Nouveau is just I love the whole motif. I love Art Deco. My heart wants to say that I like Art Deco more, but ultimately I make things that are very Art Nouveau. So I
You're
tend to
treading
just
on
do that more.
Gil, you're treading on dangerous ground right now. Don't get us,
I
don't
am
get us
just you, aren't
started.
I, at this point? Yeah.
Well, and I love what the trilogy, like you brought up Lord of the Rings, like that
Hmm.
is such a great, like talking about a benchmark starting place
Yeah.
for creativity, especially in the visual arts,
Yeah.
because Weta just absolutely knocked it out of the park, and they were just a bunch of nobodies, like out of the
Yeah.
blue.
I want to work for them. I want to go to Wellington. I want to go to New Zealand and live there and work
Gil,
there.
Gil, let's go.
Let's go. We
Hammer
should. We
Bias
should.
is going to Weta.
Why wouldn't we just call them up and say, hey, we were just two guys want to come over and see your shop? And
Why wouldn't we Weta?
yeah. What?
Oh, but like, and then what they did with the elves with Art Nouveau through, oh my gosh, Rivendell and,
Mm-hmm.
oh gosh, help me, um,
Your
Lothlorien.
Lothlorien.
And then you have the dwarves, Erebor with the Art Deco and
Mm-hmm.
Moria, like
Moria, yeah.
like such good representations, and also people that go with it.
Yeah. One of the also their armor too, just their armor and
Oh,
and little things like their tobacco pouch and all
yes,
the detail that went into just that one little thing that maybe had 2 seconds of film time. It just that level of detail. I love that. That's my thing. I love that. Um, it's what I put all. When I put the passion into my work, I do that too. I want to make sure that when I let this go out of my hands and it's gone, I'm putting that same level of detail. So when I see shows like that, when I see movies and film and other things, I soak it all in. I can see the craftsmanship, you know?
the devil's in the details.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
oh god, as a craftsperson, you want that your audience to be just like even more in awe the closer they get up to it. Like that one thing, that pipe that got 2 seconds of film time. You want that to have like, yeah, you want it to be there. It has to be in there. That's what's one thing they really got right. So Gil, you mentioned like, things bringing you joy as you're working. What brings you the most joy with your work?
While I'm working, definitely music. It can affect my mood entirely. Even if I've had a bad day, even blacksmithing aside, if I had a bad day, turn on some music that I know will get me just in the mood and just happy. I'll put that on. Sometimes if I've got a really like large project that has a really close deadline, I'll throw some things with higher BPMs because I'm sitting there tap 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 tap. Um, Sometimes it ends up being a little more heavy metal. Sometimes it ends up being a little more happy hardcore, just to get that pop 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 pop. But I mean, for sure, there's music. There's me opening the door and just having the sometimes a cool crisp air come in. If it's a really good day, I love rain. I absolutely love rain. I wish the area that I live in, had more thunderstorms. I want, just having that whole thing. My eventual dream is, to own a plot of land that overlooks a large valley. That if I wanted to set up a forge, I could just have it open, a wall, just blown out wall, just so I can see everything as it rains. I don't care if it's cold. I want to see all the lighting. I want to see all that stuff. That would definitely fuel me. For now, I just open up the door and allow, sometimes the air to come in and.
And I could see it like that. Like this is something straight out of a novel or a movie.
Mhm.
I love this
Yeah.
idea, and I want this for you. Well, and like there's such a fantasy aspect to what you just said. Weather,
Oh,
a green valley below the forge. What got you started in fantasy? Like what was your entry?
that's a good question. Let's see. Fantasy early on. I mean, we all watched the. I mean, not we all, but most of us watched, the animated The Hobbit and whatnot.
Mhm. The
And that was a good
greatest
fourth.
adventure.
Yeah, yeah. The greatest
Oh
adventure. Yeah.
God.
Honestly, even just Rankin Bass in general, just his animation style, and the Secret of Nim, various other things like that, got your imagination going. There were Saturday morning cartoons, which are okay, but nothing quite as like watching things like even like the Rescuers Down Under. I remember that being a big influential thing. That opening sequence of just the little butterfly flying away and then the camera going Mach 8 right in the that was, I don't know why that was just so influential on me, but things like that, small things like that.
That was a hell of an
kudos to the animators.
It's true. Well, I had older siblings, so I grew up with Dark Crystal and Willow.
Crystal.
Willow was a big one.
Willow, yes.
And like, I feel like when we were kids, there was some pretty awesome fantasy out there that was very like unapologetically a little bit campy, maybe. I don't know. Like it wasn't held to such a high regard now. Things could just happen.
Puppets too.
Oh my God.
Jim Henson? Things like that. Yes. Puppets, I think for me are, if they're in a film, can be the heart and soul of that film.
100%.
Practical effects. So things even like that will be like, oh, cool. Yeah, I know it's fake. Of course I know it's fake. Shut up about it, though. I wanted to just let me have a weird little Muppet just going, talking to my face. That's fine. I'm okay with it. When they brought back the Dark Crystal, the Netflix show, I was happy. I'm sad that they didn't get a second season. I want more of that.
Oh, man. Okay, Gil, I have a question for you.
Yeah, of course.
If you can have a puppet that it just always lives in your shop, that you can ask questions, maybe it'll help you do something, but like if you could have a puppet, it's tromping around in your shop, who would it be?
Ooh, an existing Muppet or puppet.
How about this? While you think about it, my answer just came to me. It's not a puppet, but it is a character that I feel like you could adopt into some type of practical effect. And it's Calcifer. The Forge is like a talking Calcifer. Could you imagine?
My Forge is named Calcifer.
Shut up! It is not.
It is absolutely named Calcifer. I'll share with you the pictures later, but yes, it's named Calcifer because that's another, again, a fantasy type realm that I just, if I had my own little shop that I could turn a knob and go into my backyard, if you will, or go to the main street, that would be amazing. So yeah, my little forge is called Calcifer. I love that little thing.
God, man, did we just become best friends?
We're already best friends, man. Come on. Yeah. Yeah, we didn't even know. Yeah.
So your Howl's Moving Forge, what are your 3 doorways?
Yeah, okay.
Like, wait, I imagine maybe probably the hillside, right, for you?
Oh, mountain. Yeah, for sure. A mountain-esque place. A beach, a secluded beach with... have you seen the? I think it's in. I can't remember if it's Big Sur, but there's a waterfall that goes right. Yeah, is that Big Sur? I think it is. That area. That would be one of them. Mountain, ocean. What else? What else would I do? A cave.
Ooh, a cave where you could like mine ore.
Yeah,
be a proper dwarf.
Sit there, be alone with my thoughts, be completely quiet, and just every breath I make just echoes. A little pebble dropping 80 feet away will just go.
That'd be amazing. I like the idea of like a bustling city street, but like quaint, right? Like a downtown. There's like a pub, a bakery, everything's within like right next door.
I've been to Rudesheim, and that would be a good spot to have that be the. I mean, you're right. I should definitely have one of them be like, hey, let's go back into civilization, kind of thing.
I have a passion for people. I love people, in spurts, right? Alone time is very important.
Yes,
man, this is amazing. Okay, so we got the dream workshop. Oh, sorry, your Muppet, your puppet that would be ripping.
Muppet. You said Calcifer. I can't take that one, though. That's a good one because that's literally working with fire. You can be like, hey, can you, Calcifer, bring up the heat a little bit? Hey, Calcifer, keep it at 2,000. Perfect, hold it there.
Oh my God, could you have like the little coal mites from?
Sip sprites, yes. Oh my God, yes. I mean, I've got sip sprites everywhere, right? There's just I can touch this table and be like, yeah, there's a bunch right there.
So cute.
Sip sprites are good. Gosh, now that I have to think of all the Muppets ever, right? All the puppets and Muppets ever. What would be a good one? or even like animatronic, right? So I guess 3PO falls into that.
Yeah.
R2D2 kind of falls
Yeah.
into
Use
that.
your imagination.
I don't really truly know. I think I would. I mean, the idea of a robot being able to carry something for me would be great. You know, my shoulder's damaged, and I've got a 300-pound anvil that sits on a 300-pound wooden block, and that would be great to have someone just move that for me if I needed to.
Having an extra pair of hands would just be lovely.
I wouldn't really truly know. It would have. I don't know if there's any like fire elemental related puppets out there, or if I haven't really seen them.
Is there anyone like breathe fire? Or just having someone to talk to, like who would you like to just hang out with, like a Rizzo or something like that?
Yoda falls under there too, but
Baby Yoda.
While Yoda is great, he couldn't help me.
No,
his wisdom was great, but he couldn't really help me. I don't have the Force, so therefore I couldn't attune into it. I could imagine him
holding,
or maybe he can
holding one of your, like, because you had the ball, right? Holding one of your metal dice.
Oh yeah, just yeah. Oh God, that's a really good question. I think that would have to be, if there's a skeleton puppet out there that could lift up a lot, that would be kind of fun.
Ooh, you could have an army of them from like, what was it? Was it Sinbad? The old Sinbad movies when they all like crawl out of the ground?
Yeah, the whole army, yeah.
So you'd be a necromancer. Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Without really being the true necromancer. It's like, I didn't make them. They just kind of...
He's over here. End the stream. Oh, buddy.
Click end.
Well, so we've covered your dream shop. What is your dream build?
Dream build? Oh, I have this one in lock. I want to make large chandeliers. I haven't yet made a chandelier. I've made large objects before. I've made... an awning. I've made gates and doors and sconces and fireplace facades and whatnot. But a really large, like 6-foot diameter, 10-foot diameter, kind of in the scale that you make a lot of your stuff, like that, very large. And I have my partner makes. I told you she works with glass, and oh man, I wish I had the glass thing. I have it, but I have to go get it. But we work with crystals. We're trying to make crystals. So she blows glass into these forms that we both made, metal to have 2-part molds, and she blows the glass in there and creates crystals. And I want to put these crystals on top of the chandelier. Inside the middle for sure, having like a cluster, and then on the outside, having these giant crystals lit up, obviously electronically, right? You can't put a flame in there, but
you're giving me chills, like amethyst clusters. Oh, that would be so beautiful.
I almost want to, I should, if you'd allow me, I'll just bring it over just to kind of share with you, and then I can
please do. Oh my God, yeah.
All right, I'll be right back.
Oh God, you kidding me?
So this is the scale that we're talking about.
Kidding. That's beautiful.
Everything is, it's not a normal, perfectly faceted piece. It's got, character.
They don't grow like that. Yeah, they grow with character.
Larger pieces and smaller pieces.
Yes.
And, so yeah, that's how it, you can see the top down, every side is different.
I love that.
And so,
well, and that's how they naturally grow. They want to grow into perfect hexagons, but sometimes nature doesn't allow it, and that's why nature's so beautiful and hard to impersonate, because it is impersonal. Like one crystal met another hard surface, and they had to just kind of grow that way.
Grow the other way. Yeah.
And maybe that's why recreating nature is so kind of addictive, is because it's like it could always be more different. It could always be better. It could always be more accurate. So now you got me thinking about crystals and caves and magical workshops. Dude, what got you into D&D? Where did you start playing like Dungeons and Dragons?
I think I was 13 years old, and a friend of mine introduced me to it.
Nice.
We briefly touched on second edition. We did it for like 2 weeks. So it was a flash in the pan, and then we went to third edition because that just came out, and we're like, hey, let's go play this, right? And shortly thereafter, 3.5 came out, and me and my friends all basically played. We all took turns playing as the dungeon master. So we have a group of 13 people, and it wasn't always 13 people strong, the session, but we had 7 or 8 or whatever, right? And then people would come and go, and it didn't matter if one person was gone because the other person could just plug and play perfectly, and so you would level up as long as you were there, And so if one person was not there, we wouldn't even count them in that adventure or that task or whatever, the quest that we were on. It's fine because they could always come back next week and just continue on, and they could pick it up like if it just And that whole thing basically was like my foray. I was literally in high school, and it ended up being that I became the forever DM because they liked my game style. They liked my world building and whatnot. And I just basically kept doing the dungeon master role often enough. They're like, let's just let Gil do it, from here on out. And I'm like, well, all right, fine, sure. Because I just kept, drawing. I love dungeoneering. I love drawing the dungeons and all that, and having different layers and different trap mechanisms, and going out to if it's a cave, it goes out to the outside where there's a forest there too, and I'll draw all that out. And I think it's just probably honestly it melded with my creativity so well that I couldn't see myself separating it from it.
I feel like I'm talking to a mirror. What is going on, Gil?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
I came into D&D a lot later in life.
Uh-huh.
That's where we differ. But yeah, the engineering, the logic, the world building, wacky characters you get to come up with,
Yeah.
DMing is definitely my passion. I really love it. Being a player is fun because you can just kick back and do one person's worth of work.
Yes.
Like, hey,
I haven't done that in forever. I don't know what that's like anymore.
What's that like? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, it's so cool to especially be able to expand your creativity, because we both have very creative lives, but I feel like D&D is just that one more step up where you can really take a step back and be like, just let your creativity unleash itself.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me wonder how many other people like us are there? How many other, specifically blacksmiths who've had, a little touch of D&D and goes, oh, now I know how to marry these two, together and go on to swords and armor or whatever.
It can't be many, thank goodness, too, because the world would burn down. I don't know. I think it'd be disastrous.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. Oh gosh. And the friendships, the family you can create over the tabletop. Like for those
family,
like if you've never played Dungeons and Dragons or played any TTRPG, do it. You don't have to know anything. The people at the table will help you along the way. It's not your job to know the stuff. Just your job to show up and have an open mind. And I think it's done worlds to my empathy, learning different points of view, creating characters that wildly differ from myself to challenge your lens. It's such a healthy thing. It's like one of the healthiest things you can do, get together with your pals and eat and drink like kings. I mean, come on, it does not get any better.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. That's literally, it can be a fantasy for most people, and it's a reality for a lot. So yeah.
When you spend really cool quality time together, and I feel like there's a level of, vulnerability, just
for sure,
total vulnerability that you get to share with somebody that even if you had a friend for your entire life, you still will not achieve, because you can.
For sure. Yes.
It's weird.
Yes, absolutely. This has happened in my life as well. And like the whole found family thing, maybe if you don't even have anyone close to you, maybe you don't have any siblings, maybe you don't have a father or mother for some, reason, and you go in and you start playing games with the people, and your brain doesn't, or it can differentiate. Obviously, you're smart enough to differentiate, but when you recall these stories many, many years later, your brain tells it like if you were there. You were holding that battle axe. You were holding the bow and arrow. You were casting those spells. That was you. And you're retelling it like if you were there, and people outside of that little bubble will just look at you kind of maybe a little oddly. That, what are you talking about? Who did you kill?
Yeah.
Like, why?
You were there.
An orc, you say? All right.
That moment when it was like the final battle against good and evil, and you're out in the battleground in the mud and the blood, and you're there with your friend that is not doing so hot, and then you like cast your final level spell on them and you bring them back from the brink. Meanwhile, the forces are cresting the mountain, pouring down at you like a flood. You were there. It's almost like the never-ending story, but the pages only fill up when you all gather together.
Yeah. Yes.
Real.
Yeah.
It's
Very
amazing.
similar. Yes.
Okay. So my next question for you, buddy, if you can like have a roster of like the people that you would want to play with at your table, who would they be? 4 people.
Ooh. It's funny. I think I would get people, as long as they were like into it, right? I would get people like astronauts and scientists, because I would love to see how they interact with each other. And then just to see like the creativity, because their brains are
wildly creative,
elevated. They have a lot going on in there, and the cleverness that a lot of D&D promotes. Where you have like someone creating a little potion of what do you call it? Like a polymorph, and then tricking the dragon into drinking it, thinking it's a wine, and then suddenly things like that. Like the DM goes, "Well, shit, yeah, no, it worked," because. Wow, okay, you floored me. I can see scientists really thinking of creative ways, astronauts too, physicists in general, just like, and I don't mean like Einstein necessarily, but just getting like a lot of the higher thinkers out there, the ones who probably can't untap from that kind of mentality, put them in a D&D space and just go, have fun.
Is amazing. That is such a good idea. Do it Spelljammer with astral elves.
Oh, yes.
Could you imagine with astronauts?
Yes, that would be great. Yeah.
That'd be a hard thing to DM. You're like, okay, so what is the gravitational force of this body here?
Oh, yeah. They'd absolutely be picking it apart. Be like,
magic.
It's just, you know what? 9 meters per second. That's all I'm going to give you,
But that's so funny that you say that. That's a brilliant answer, because like take professional problem solvers and put them into a problem solving creative space. That's brilliant, because that's what D&D really is like creative problem solving.
Yeah.
Testing your logic. Oh,
yeah, for sure.
I was thinking it's like, different celebrities, but I like your answer way better. You can have like
most people do that. Most people go into like, I want Matt Mercer on the table. I played with him. He's great. He's a wonderful person. But I want something that I think I would like. I know I would definitely cherish a full celebrity table, but the game of having scientists and astronauts and physicists all on one table, I think would just live a little bit longer in your mind.
The approach would be so different. Like,
I don't know if I could be the DM for that. I don't know if I could.
Just be a player and just enjoy the show.
Just be a player, yeah.
Oh my God.
Be the dumbest player there, but still enjoy the whole the time. So.
Obviously. Well, and like, and for those of you that are like, oh, I don't want to be a newbie at the D&D table. Honestly, as a DM, my favorite people to DM are noobs, new people to the game, because they don't know like, oh, I'm going to use this weapon because it does, this amount. They min-max everything. Like, no. Yeah. I want a story. And because people are going to be approaching it at a wildly different angle.
Yeah.
Oh, this is.
Yeah. It's funny. In the same aspect, people who say, "Oh, I can't be a blacksmith like you, Gil. You're way, you're so." No, I'm nothing special. I am not like gifted and talented. I just put the work in. Anyone can. You are. This. I teach the newbies, and they can do it. I'm like, I luckily I have a lot of knowledge, and I want to impart it onto people. I've got 23 years of stuff in here. I can help other people out, so why not? Let me do that.
No one is born with all of these skill sets. You work at them. No. You nailed it, brother. You're only good at this stuff. Imagining it, maybe sketching it, bring it to
Yeah.
life, and then actually building it. That's all hard-earned knowledge. You just got to put the
Yeah.
time in. You just got to start doing it.
Yeah.
You might as
Yeah.
well start now.
I mean, sure, some people can draw a little bit better than others, but you can still get
Yes.
there. You can still get at that point. It's not unattainable.
Yes.
Anything in this world that you see someone doing, you can do.
Absolutely.
Once I learned that, when in a job setting, once I learned that, and someone goes, "Oh, you can't do what I do," I go,
Oh,
in a machine shop, kind of environment, the guy who was programming the 7-axis mill turn, I go, yeah, I bet I could actually, because you can do it.
yeah, if you can do it. Well, now I want to
Yeah.
do it harder. Like now you've only
now I want to go more in depth and prove that I can run a 9-axis
Yeah.
mill turn.
We're going fourth dimension on this damn thing. I love that. Well, and like I feel that if people have that attitude, no one secure in themselves and their capabilities would ever say that.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
And like to gatekeep or to keep anybody from trying. What an awful thing to do. Like get people into it. Like I love that you do classes. I just did my first class. Thanks for the information you gave us.
Of course.
Dude.
Yeah. I'm so happy to give that. Yeah. That's any questions you got on that, let me know. But I'm sure you'll pick it up really quickly. It
was profound.
Yeah.
It was so wonderful.
Yeah.
And, even if you're not going to go into it as a professional blacksmith, it's great to have on your belt to strip the mystique of iron away, that like this can move. If I need a bracket or if I need a little hook with some holes in it, like I can make that with very minimal tools.
Yeah.
And it creates way less reliance on, the Amazons or whatever the hell, like it's cool to be able to be empowered to make things.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't get me started. Like I love to empower people with knowledge. It's so beautiful. Anyways, I'm going to get ahead of myself because buddy, this is the time. This is a fun part. This is where I get to ask my patrons to ask you questions. So now the wheel is right out of my hands. This is where we go off course, buddy.
Oh.
All right. Are you ready for the first question? This is from Yvonne. Are there methods or techniques you prefer, or do you like to mix them?
I'm always learning new techniques, so I will definitely mix them. I'm a person that likes to just continue to learn. I don't want to stop learning. So if I know that a technique will work, I'll use it. But if I know something else I've seen someone else do may work, I'll attempt it at the very least. Maybe I'll watch a video or two on it. But definitely a mixture of all different things. Yeah, I am not just like, for instance, reprise. Most people just stick with the various methods of reprise. You have your tools, you hammer from the back and the front. But sometimes I'll be able to, like I said, I use the rock for texture, and that's not normally a technique found in reprise. But I will go and hammer all that texture in there, and I've got it already.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely mix and match different textures. Different techniques.
And to that point, buddy, what a time to be alive that we're able to, unbeknownst to each other, inspire each other. Like you said, look up a video like, oh man, like I would love to somehow inlay this piece of repoussé into this big forged element. How do I do that?
Mm-hmm.
And then there might be someone that did something similar to where I can now adapt that technique over. Imagine being in like the Renaissance, even though that was like such a blossoming of trade, you would have to travel. You would have to go on some journeymanship. You have to go to museums and conservatories. Now we get to scroll on our phone and be like, okay, like I learned something new.
Yeah. Although that experience would be amazing to go and travel somewhere to learn from a specific artist and then go, okay, great, thank you. And then move on to a different artist, 80 miles away or whatever. And
it'd be really cool to, and I know you're doing a good job at this already, but to kindle that journeymanship, people coming to you to learn something very specific that you can offer. And then they move on. And then they're slowly building their library of technique and trade. I feel like we should adopt that a little bit more. And I'm saying this so that I remember it, What a cool thing to be able to share as knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
God.
Yeah.
Okay. This next question comes from Casey. Do you have a favorite material to work with?
Oh, different materials, but for different
Mm,
reasons. 5160 is a great steel for me to teach newbies how to work with higher carbon steels, like, for making knives and blades of any,
right.
length or whatnot. Because you could, even if you mess up, you may still come out on top.
Hmm.
Even if you overcook the metal a little bit, you're like, well, or let it get too cold and hammered it, yeah, 5160 is a spring steel. It's typically what they use for leaf springs on leaf springs on
You bet.
trucks. And I that's a good one for me to show the people who don't know how to work higher carbon steels in that
Yeah.
foray. I don't want to start them off with 1095 or anything like that, because they could potentially break it and crack it, and all these different things can happen.
And it's
And if
usually
they learn on that steel,
catastrophic
what?
failures.
Yeah, exactly, completely. And it would be very hard for them to know when and where and why it happened.
Brutal learning curve.
Versus 5160 steel, you can literally, I see, hey, by the way, you hit this too cold, and you can see the microfractures starting to form. They're starting to get a lot bigger. So next time you want to heat it up, a lot hotter. Hit it only when it's orange. Higher carbon steels require the whole completely different set of rules. So that would be like the steel answer. Although I do like 1095. It's a fun steel to work with for me, for blades and stuff like that. Shorter blades and nothing too long. I do like copper, though. Copper has been always in my life to some aspect, and only lately have I been going back into repoussé, where I form all these different copper pieces and whatnot. I've been including them in other artwork that I have, and like, for instance, I know that you work with copper and brass yourself, various large pieces and whatnot. I love doing that. I love incorporating other metals into it.
Yeah, they're just totally different beasts. Roll an animal handling check. Very wildly different animals. Yeah, they're really neat, and I like to add, when for me it's color. Like if I want to add color to something, I like it to be a material as opposed to a coating. That's usually when I add copper elements or brass
Mm-hmm.
elements, like black and gold. Like
Yeah.
what a combo for the history books, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
great contrast.
Yeah. And it's just naturally occurring. Like, that's just what if metal was green? What if metal was purple and green? You're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
no, I got to choose one or the other.
Yeah, they belong with each other.
Yeah.
Oh, this is terrific, buddy. Okay, the next question comes from Anna. When your mind is silent, where do you draw inspiration?
My mind is silent.
Kind of like writer's block. Yeah, nothing's kind of moving.
Yeah.
How do you go seek out that inspiration?
Nature will definitely kickstart, and my brain is usually always firing, even when it's like, I've got ADHD, so it's always doing something. But even still, I'll get like a bit of writer's block. I will absolutely, I'm thinking of something. Maybe I don't have any commissions on the plate, and I'll just think about, what can I do? And I've got, unfortunately, a list of 90 projects already in my head that I can just pick at, and I'm adding to it, so it's never going to go away, and it's never really going to go down in size. But nature will definitely do that for me. Like I said, watching the eclipse and seeing the awe-inspiring aspect of it all, just people cheering in the Walmart parking lot behind me, people next to me just going and breaking down, and like, what is going on? That emotion I want to capture into something. So maybe I can, maybe I can. Who knows if I can or cannot? It doesn't matter. It's I tried it, and I love doing that. That's inspiration comes from things like that. Definitely my waking life, but nature definitely is the highest of them all.
I love that, man. And I fully agree. I couldn't agree more. Well, and like, as an owner of another high RPM resting mind, it's tough to find silence. But I also feel like silence can be really useful, because you can't be burning hot all the time. Like you definitely need those moments of rest. And
Yeah.
sometimes it can be so difficult to kind of work with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like it's those moments like the calm before the storm, at least for me, that's where I have my biggest breakthroughs. And sometimes a little bit of burnout is like the symptom of that. I'll just kind of head downhill, and then all of a sudden I'll have my absolute eureka, and then it's a year's worth of commissions right there, you know?
Burnout is definitely a huge factor. Having stress, of like, maybe even it could be like a stress of the job you're working on, a deadline, or maybe the client is a little more difficult and wants to continue to. Yes. Oh my God, that's merch right there too. Yeah. Yeah. I look at. I particularly, whenever I get stressed out, I do try to unplug. I sometimes have multiple projects going at one time. So if something is just too overbearing, I can switch off to a different topic or different object or whatever.
Yeah. Change of scenery. God, because like, I don't know about you, buddy, but I have the tendency to just like lock in. Like nothing else in the world exists besides what I'm focusing on.
I get myself into the groove and I love that. When I do that, exactly. I literally sometimes my mind puts a blinder and someone could walk up. Oh, I'm going to say it. Someone can walk up and scare me, but I know that's definitely someone. Your partner, bless her soul for putting that out there. I am so happy that exists.
It gets me so bad. But like if that job is stressing you out, or if you're just totally burnt out on it, that's like kind of a death spiral because you can't unplug.
It does, yeah.
It's almost like you're just holding onto a power cord. You're just like, I'm stuck. So get blood plugging. Yeah, getting away, I think, is so smart, and I think that's really great advice, Gil. Okay, another question. Let's do these. All right, this one comes from Scone. What is the best thing you have ever eaten?
While I'm in Missouri now, I'm not expecting Missouri to have the best Mexican food I've ever tasted.
No way, Gil.
But it had the best Mexican food I've ever tasted.
Gil, it's impossible. You live in California, dude.
Right? And I've got Hispanic parents who make good food. Like, it blew me away. I was like, okay. All right, Missouri, I see you.
That's amazing.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it good American Mexican food, or was it good, like, proper Mexican food?
Authentic Mexican food. Yeah. I mean, like, they handmade the tortillas. They, just like everything that was coming out was like, this tastes like my mom's cooking. Or this tastes like my grandmother's cooking.
You had that, like, ratatouille, the judge?
Yeah. Me at 3 years old, crying over a broken knee or whatever. Yeah.
That's so sweet. Oh, I'm so glad. What'd you order? Was it like a mole?
I had so it was shrimp and scallops on top of like carne asada steak, and we had chips that were fresh all the time, fresh. But they were like the good, like the glistening kind. You put salt in it sticks to it. Yeah, salsa was great. I also had beans and rice, which is amazing. They had avocado on there. What else did I have? And a giant glass of margarita.
Oh, well, that'll help.
No joke. It was this big.
You can hide behind it.
Yeah. I don't mean like the base was also that large, so I had to like drip it in a weird way. It was very awkward. I almost had to like double palm it.
It's like it comes in pints moment.
Yeah. This comes in a liter.
Yeah,
I guess.
exactly. Oh, dude, I'm so happy you had that experience. Well, now I'm hungry, so let's get to the next question fast. This one comes from Apex. What kind of art forms would you like to learn in the future?
Art forms. Ooh, good. I definitely want to learn more of a repoussé. I have kind of an inspiration named Douglas Pryor. You may have known
his work.
Other blacksmiths.
His copper work is insanity.
Insanity, exactly. And I would love to get to that point where I would definitely have to learn his techniques to do those types of things. I do more shallow reliefs. He does things that like he does a frog on a toast that looks like there's a frog on a toast.
Yeah, it looks like a photograph.
It looks amazing.
What he asked that material to do, for those of you that don't know metal, and that's totally fine. Like this is not a blacksmith podcast. This is creativity. what he made that material, that copper, to compress, to expand, to be under tension, to relax. What he made that stuff do is insane to me.
Yep. I aspire to that. Although that technically is like an expansion of a technique that I already know. I would love to do things like maybe using a 3D printer to cast rings, through jewelry cast rings. Some of the higher definition resin printers can get really good detail. And if I designed it on a computer, I could definitely, 3D print them and make jewelry.
Fascinating.
That's something new that I
Would
haven't
that be
done
like
yet.
a lost wax sort of situation?
Yes.
Very
Yes,
cool.
definitely. Well, yeah. So the resin that can be printed can come in a meltable format or a burnoutable format. So you can, yeah, I know, right? Oh, other things to get into maybe later. And I want to do, castings of stuff like that. I've done castings before, but I want to definitely do more of them in different techniques using, various sand casted things, or maybe 2-part molds, or various things like that. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff. Using the hydraulic press for making top and bottom dies to make repeatable objects over and over again.
Yeah, you can make that like D100. That's like
It's a
it's a
golf
golf
ball.
ball. That's awesome, man. Yeah, and I wish you the best of luck for these new ventures, and I'm excited to see what you do with them. That's really, really neat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Our
you.
final question comes from Catherine. What piece are you the most proud of? And what is the piece that you enjoyed making the most? Because sometimes they're two different things.
Yeah. They're definitely two different things. The piece I am most proud of right now may have to be, oh goodness, this is I've done a lot of stuff, and I think my whole thing is that I've done so much stuff. Oh, okay. It's both the hardest and the thing that I will never do again, and my most favorite because I took 2 years to learn about it before I even touched it, and that was the meteorite detail.
Oh my God.
I did not want to mess it up. I knew that I could easily screw it up, and I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to go into this, I need to really, truly learn everything there is to know about meteorites. And there's a knowledge out there, but there's nothing in regards to hammering them and smelting
And
them
I
down.
feel like it's not like you're just grabbing some A36, some mild steel where it's all homogenous. You might have delaminations. You have my impurities in there. Dude, I feel your pain.
That's all it is.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was very frustrating because I would go ahead and start hitting the rock, it just crumble. It crumbled apart. The meteorite I was forging was Campo de Cielo, and it's a specific type of meteorite. It's like if you grabbed a little piece of clay about, a thumb in volume and put it to another one, a different color, right? Just you can see the separation, got another one, kept adding them on, but not fully kneading them, just applying them on top of each other. You could essentially grab 2 halves of it and separate it apart and have it look all weird and gnarly, but it still separates. So that's what happened, is that it got hot enough and the bonds between them weren't great. They weren't integrated. They were just applied together, and so they fell apart. Something like a Gibeon meteorite or a Muonualista meteorite are more tiny fibers, and the crystals are more interlocked, and they have a lot more beautiful patterns, in my opinion. Those are better to work with, but still very, very difficult. I can literally say it's the worst metal in the universe.
I mean, for sure. Oh my God. Well, and it's so precious too, because it's like, it's in short supply. This is a precious material. If it just crumbles in my hands, it's my fault. Like I could only imagine the pressure.
But my most favorite thing currently, if I were to, I would say swords. I would want to default to swords, but maybe it's making a blacksmith out of someone who hasn't yet done that, who wants to, and watching that whole thing grow on to its own thing, and not knowing which direction it goes, just like I planted the seed and just watch it just do its own thing.
Well, you just warmed my heart. My goodness, buddy. That was beautiful.
Oh,
I feel it though.
yeah.
To propel others forward, that like what an amazing gift to be able to offer somebody. To
Yeah,
push
yeah,
them forward.
exactly.
Oh,
Yep.
that's beautiful, bud. I-
I can never, I cannot determine where they end up, but at least I can start them in the direction. And if they ask me questions, I can help them get
yeah.
there.
Oh God. And when like creating community, being able to inspire others, like there's few greater ventures to dive into.
Yeah, community is huge. Community is massive. I'm glad that I have a really good community. You've got a massive community yourself, and yeah, they're all loving you, right? They inspire you too in some aspects,
Yes.
right? They help you. They help you along. Not that you're doing it for them necessarily, but seeing that feedback,
So
it helps.
I was drug into social media kicking and screaming. I hated it because I felt very self-involved. I was like, I
Same.
feel so narcissistic, like filming myself, like, who am I? Like, what the hell? But
It's a necessary
yeah,
evil almost.
it is. Well, it was so funny because what helped me get over that was getting messages like, hey, man, like, thank you so much for putting your content out there because it has inspired me. Like I got back from Afghanistan several years ago. So I've been depressed ever since, but this got me back into my leather shop. This got me working with wood again. Like that got me excited about building again, something I lost at war. And then I was like, holy crap, this has nothing to do with me. It's about them. And that changed my whole outlook on the whole thing. And I'm like, I can't wait to post a new video and maybe bring a little bit of joy and maybe a little bit of inspiration into somebody's life.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely walking away from this wildly inspired.
Great.
Dude, and we need to hang out. We live close to each other. Do we need to meet?
Do we? How close?
Do we need to meet like Buellton or something? Meet halfway and just cause a ruckus?
Buellton? I can do Buellton. I can do Buellton. I can definitely do a road trip too. Because I definitely want to see your shop.
It's tiny.
That is, it's so funny. Literally, I first heard of you because of the Hobbit tour, right? That got traction. And I'm like, hold on, you can do that? That's a thing? And that's what got me going into the larger structures that I want to make, the chandeliers and whatnot. That large aspect, I guess it's going to be heavy, sure, but like to see an installation, walking into a room and going, whoa, and just stopping.
Yeah.
You know?
That's where my passion really comes from, is kind of trying to instill a sense of awe in people. Because I feel like in our day-to-day life, doors look exactly the same. You go to a store, it's the same push-pull. Everyone's kind of on autopilot, and you can't blame them. Like, how could you not be on autopilot in this kind of very mundane world that we live in? So to be able to shock people into reality a little bit and just be like, what the hell am I looking at? Or when did this happen? Or how did this happen? Be able to show people that magic really does exist. It really exists.
Yes.
And it's here. It's in our imaginations, baby.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Never let it go.
Goonies never say die, right? Or you're doing it, Peter. Anyways, all the tropes. Dude, thank you so much for your time. This is only the beginning of a really wonderful relationship. I'm really excited to see where this friendship ends up.
Same,
oh, buddy.
Same. Thank you for having me.
And to all of you that are watching or listening, thank you for joining us on this, misadventure of creativity and blacksmithing and fantasy. Oh, well, buddy, thank you so much again, and see you next time.